Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning into TradeChat. My name is Panzer, and today we are going to be talking about the Nostalrius private server, what it is, and why it matters. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you do, remember to rate it thumbs up. As you probably already heard by now, World of Warcraft's largest private server, Nostalrius, was shut down this week on April 10th. It had over 150,000 active players and over 800,000 registered accounts. Its website alone got something like 2 million hits per month. Did I mention it's a vanilla server? Because that's important. Let's back up just a little bit. Like I said a second ago, Nostalrius was a private World of Warcraft server that allowed players to experience vanilla WoW circa patch 1.12. Now it is worth mentioning that the team behind Nostalrius did not make any money. They didn't charge any fees, they didn't ask for any donations, and as far as I know, their site didn't even have ads, so it was probably a pretty big monetary loss for them because server hosting charges had to have been outrageous. Anyways, Nostalrius lived in peace for about a year, just doing vanilla WoW things with its thousands and thousands of pals. That is, until Blizzard slapped them with a cease and desist order threatening legal action if they refused to comply, thus leading to its shutdown a few days ago. Now that we're all caught up, let's talk a bit about why this matters. A lot of people are making the argument, and I am paraphrasing here, that Blizzard's shutdown of the Nostalrius private server is a clear-cut case of fun policing. I mean, the Nostalrius team was not making any money, and Blizzard does not offer an alternative for like legacy gaming in the World of Warcraft community, so this should be like no harm, no foul, right? Maybe not. I think it's important to keep in mind that Blizzard is completely within their legal rights to shut down private servers, and if companies like Blizzard do not aggressively defend their IPs, they actually risk legally losing pieces of them. I am not a copyright attorney, so I'm not even gonna begin to pretend to understand the logistics of this, but I do know that if X number of changes are made to the game, then it muddies up what is intellectual property and what is actual copyright, and it gets real messy. TLDR, it is not in Blizzard's best interest to allow anyone outside of their company to utilize, change, or build upon their content in any way, legally speaking. Another point that keeps being brought up is that Blizzard does not offer an alternative to private servers if people do want to play a legacy version of WoW. I mean, if you have 800,000 registered users for Nostalrius and 150,000 active players, it would appear that there is a demand for this type of service. Now, my personal thoughts on this, as someone who has done a whole lot of college-level math, is that that data is pretty inconclusive. Hear me out. So Nostalrius did have 800,000 registered users, and I would argue that using registered users as any sort of piece of data is pretty irrelevant because it just means that they signed up for an account. In the lifespan of World of Warcraft, they've had 100 million registered users, and that's not reflective on their size of player base as a whole. So if you go ahead and you look at the 150,000 active players, that sounds like a lot until you look at World of Warcraft's retail player base, which at the end of 2015 in North America and Europe was about 5.4 million subscribers. And if you were to add Asia into those figures, you could conservatively double it, meaning that retail World of Warcraft's player base is probably 10 to 11 million. When looking at all of these figures together, I think there's one really glaringly important thing to keep in mind, and that was that Nostalrius was 100% free. Would it still have had 150,000 active players if there had been a paywall in order for them to access that content? And there's no way of us knowing this, so kind of all of these numbers, in a nutshell, in my opinion, are pretty anecdotal. And going back to the topic of monetization, if Blizzard were to release a legacy version of World of Warcraft, I don't think it would be free. I don't know that it would have like a monthly subscription fee model, but I am pretty sure there would be some cost associated with that game. And honestly, there would be valid reason for it. I mean, the legacy version of WoW would need a dedicated support team, which would mean Blizzard would either need to reevaluate and restructure the team they have now or hire new people. So I'm pretty sure that the team that was running Nostalrius was around 30 people, and if we were to assume that all of them worked part-time, I think it's safe to say that 10 people could probably do their jobs full-time. So if Blizzard were to hire 10 new people at $35,000 a year, which is a very conservative estimate, it would cost Blizzard $350,000 a year just in salary, and that's not including benefits or server costs or any other overheads. So yeah, like I said, I'm pretty sure that Blizzard would not have a 10-person team of people working on a game that was 100% free. That's not a smart business decision. All that being said, this is still a really interesting topic for discussion because it seems like Blizzard themselves are split on whether legacy servers will ever be something that's on their to-do list. I mean, we have all seen that clip from a couple BlizzCons ago where the Q&A panelist asked if legacy servers are ever something that will be a thing, and the answer is no, and you wouldn't even want that. I think the reason that that answer was given is because if they were to bring back Vanilla WoW in the place that it was, let's just say in patch 1.1.2, all the known exploits, all of the bugs, all of that stuff would still kind of remain in its truest form. But that being said, no one can really tell you what you want or do not want. The data that we have to try to make an assumption on whether or not people would play a legacy server, in my opinion, is pretty inconclusive. So at this point, it's kind of a guessing game whether people would actually play it or not. My 2 cents would be that I think, you know, a lot of people would dabble in it if it was free, less people if they had to pay for it, and even less people would actually play it seriously, like their main character. But honestly, in Blizzard numbers, even less could still mean a few 100,000 or even 1 million people. I keep getting off topic, but back to Blizzard's response on legacy servers. I feel like it is widely accepted in our community that Blizzard's stance is a firm no when it comes to legacy servers, but there's actually evidence that points the other way. So last summer, CM Lore was on a podcast where he was asked about legacy servers, and he did make it perfectly clear that Blizzard is not actively working on legacy servers, nor are there any current plans to do so. But he did say that there certainly would come a time that it would make sense to do something like that. So then the question becomes, at what point is it logical to spend the time and resources to make a legacy version of World of Warcraft? Moving on, I see a lot of people using RuneScape as an example of how Blizzard should handle legacy servers. And just a little context for those of you who are not familiar, in late 2012, early 2013, Jagex made an update for RuneScape called Evolution of Combat, and apparently it was terrible. So terrible, in fact, that their CEO even released this like public apology saying that he was so sorry for releasing untested, unfinished content, and the player base was really upset about this, so they did a change.org petition to allow people to play the game prior to the Evolution of Combat update. Then Jagex responded to that petition with an official RuneScape petition that all RuneScape players could participate in. It ended up garnering like 500,000 signatures, which I think was about half their player base at the time. So the player base won, and Jagex ended up implementing another version of RuneScape called Old School RuneScape. So that means as of right now, RuneScape players can choose to play the live retail version of RuneScape or the old school version of RuneScape. I feel like it's important to note though that as of right now, the current version of RuneScape is ridiculously more popular than old school RuneScape. As of last night, there were only about 35,000 people playing old school RuneScape, which is a far cry from the 500,000 people who signed the petition just a couple years ago. But that's a really tough comparison because World of Warcraft is a monthly subscription paid game, whereas RuneScape is free to play with like a premium paid option. So when those 500,000 people signed the petition to get old school RuneScape, they knew they weren't going to have to pay for anything. There was nothing to lose. Whereas with World of Warcraft, it's really unlikely that that would be a free game. So I'm not even sure if that's a fair comparison. Now, all of that being said, RuneScape players still do have an option that World of Warcraft players do not, which is if they want to go relive the nostalgia and play the game it was 10 years ago, they can just hop onto the old school RuneScape servers, which is sort of related to another example I've seen floating around the internet space a lot lately, which, and I'm going to paraphrase, but it goes a little something like this. If I wanted to play Ocarina of Time, I just dust off the old GameCube, pop in the disc, and bam! I'm back in my childhood. And with a game like World of Warcraft, an ever-changing MMORPG, without something like Nostalrius, you really don't have that option. But that kind of poses the question, should you? It's sort of like comparing apples and oranges. MMORPGs are ever-growing and ever-evolving and ever-changing things because stagnancy would ensure that their player base would get bored and stop playing, whereas Ocarina of Time is a story game with a very definitive end. So with that example used, it's sort of implying that Blizzard should dump a whole lot of time and energy and resource into a game that people are only going to play extremely occasionally for the sake of nostalgia. And I'm not suggesting that that's how all players would utilize a legacy server, but with that example used, it's certainly an implication that is being made. And then when you compare it to the data of, 500,000 people said they wanted a legacy server on RuneScape and only 35,000 are playing it, it's sort of up in the air of like, is it worth it for Blizzard to do? Anyways, let's get back on topic. Are you still following me? Blizzard has recently been doing a lot with their old games. Like there was an update for Diablo 2. They also announced recently that Warcraft 3 will have Battle.net capabilities. And is this a sign, a glimmer of hope, if you will, that World of Warcraft, like a legacy version of World of Warcraft, could be coming in the future? I mean, maybe? I don't know. It's sort of like all the examples are anecdotal and all of the theories are really just guesses. Now, before I wrap up this video, I do want to quickly mention that the team behind Nostalrius has started a change.org petition asking Mike Morhaime, Senpai himself, to consider making a legacy version of World of Warcraft. So if that is something that you would like to see, if you're interested in playing, I will have the petition linked in the information below. I swear to you, this video is ending. I swear. I have like one last thing to say, and that is that I want to be completely transparent with you. Full disclosure, I have never played on a private server in World of Warcraft, including Nostalrius. I've not played it, so I can't give an opinion on it either way. I actually can't even give a fair opinion on vanilla World of Warcraft because I didn't start playing until October 2007, which means beginning of BC. All that being said, I would still like to play on a legacy server. I would like to try that out. I would like to know what the struggle was really like, but it wouldn't be where I played my main. It would be a fun home for an alt, but it wouldn't be where I played my main. And that's kind of my question for you guys today. Do you think Blizzard should make legacy servers? Would you play on legacy servers? If you did play on legacy servers, would it be your main or would it be like an alt that you played on sometimes? How much would you pay to play on a legacy server? And if you wouldn't play on a legacy server, why? That's a lot of questions, but I know you can do this. I'm gonna go. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that I did a good job like conveying impartial information because I tried real hard. I am gonna go. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. I love you all. You're in my hearts. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.